Back in 1979, 16-year-old Kim Bryant was a sophomore at Western High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. Both of my parents went here just a few years later, and my grandmother, who's 94 years old, still to this day lives within a mile of this school. I know the area really well, and it makes this case that much more interesting to me. And coupled with that, the fact that this case was just recently solved after over 40 years makes it extremely interesting. Kim, back in 1979, while still attending Western High School, was described as electrically exuberant by her classmates and was well-liked and volunteered her time to help with the Special Olympics as well. Now, on January 26, 1979, Kim went to school and was registering for classes for the following year. At about 10 a.m., she arrived at Dairy Queen across the street from Western High School on Decatur around the I-95. This is no longer a Dairy Queen, but it was there for many, many years and was sort of a staple in Las Vegas. It is now a Snappy Burger, which is a drive-through burger joint that has a big screen playing movies, kind of like a drive-in movie theater with burgers. I definitely remember this Dairy Queen. It was one of the oldest establishments in town up until recently being removed. So at 10 a.m., she crossed the street over to the parking lot of Dairy Queen, which is a known hangout for Western kids back in the day. And it wasn't open yet. It was 10 a.m. that she arrived, and she was standing around with her friend. And Dairy Queen, as I mentioned, was not open. It was not going to be open for a few more hours. Meanwhile, while standing there with her friend, a late 50s model Chevy pulled up with gray primer and two young men that were described as hippie types, one behind the wheel and one in the passenger seat. And they began to make obscene gestures at Kim and her friend, to which they responded with obscene gestures of their own, causing the car to drive off in a hurry. Now, Kim's friend's mom arrived shortly thereafter in the Dairy Queen parking lot and offered Kim a ride as she was picking up her daughter. Kim went to a nearby payphone and called her boyfriend and just confirmed that her boyfriend would be indeed picking her up soon, after which she told her friend's mom that she would no longer need a ride, that she would just wait for her boyfriend to come pick her up. Unfortunately, at about 10:30, not long after Kim's friend's mom left with her friend, Kim's boyfriend showed up to the Dairy Queen parking lot, and Kim was not there. He pulled in, she was gone, and it was just like a 15-minute window that this could have happened, that she, was apparently abducted. And at around noon, this was a really bad sign. Kim's backpack was found on the median of Decatur with her ID in it, and this would lead you to believe that this was no accident, that someone had abducted her and thrown her backpack out of the moving vehicle onto the median of Decatur. Unfortunately, when Kim's parents, later that night, they waited till about an hour after dark before they drove to the police station and reported Kim as being missing. The police did not know about this backpack yet. I don't know if the parents even knew about this backpack yet. I think it was later reported by the person that found it. They had initially called Kim's home from some information they found in the backpack, and no one answered. So that was unfortunate, because initially the police did not rule Kim as being missing. They assumed that she had been a runaway. We've heard about this many times in True Crime Guys and many of the cases we've covered. And there were some things to lead them to believe that. Kim's parents told the police that they had gotten into an argument with her the night before. That led them to believe, along with the fact that they looked through her journal in her room and found some evidence that maybe she was planning to run away. This caused them to not report her officially a missing person until a week later. So that's a lot of missed time that they could have been hunting for Kim, and later would find out that it's possible that she had been alive and being held captive for a few days. That is not confirmed, but it is speculated upon. So they finally report her missing after about a week. When they finally discovered that she had that missing backpack that was found, that's what led them to believe that she actually was abducted. And on February 20th, 1979, nearly a month after she was abducted, 3 teenage boys found Kim Bryant's body face down in some hastily covered debris. And she had been bashed in the head with a rock and sexually assaulted. And they found her on Charleston and Buffalo. If you know Vegas, it's now been incorporated for a long time. It's back then in 1979, though, it was desert. That was the outer edges of the city, whereas now the city expands far west of that. On Charleston goes way up to the mountain's edge up there. But back then, these boys were out riding bikes and found her body out there. And obviously, it was the worst case scenario. She'd been sexually assaulted. She'd been battered with a rock. And police promised swift justice as they promised to find whoever did this to her. However, they were overwhelmed. In 1979, there had been a large spike in homicides in Las Vegas. From 1978 to 1979, early in 1979, the murder rate had almost doubled. And they were understaffed, and they were trying to keep up with all of these murder cases. However, they did get some leads early on, and none better than the friends of Kim talking about this encounter they had with this Chevy vehicle with the primer and the two hippie type people in it. And the police would come to find out from other reports that these young men had also been harassing other young women surrounding Western High School. They had been harassing people on school grounds and near the school. And at that point, police actually had one of the witnesses help police draw a sketch. And this sketch would later be quite obvious when we would many years later find out who the perpetrator is. The witnesses said that the passenger of this vehicle had shaggy blonde hair and droopy eyes, like stoner eyes. The driver, they said, had light brown hair and a mustache. Now, with this, police had something to go on, but the tips continued to flood in, a lot of them regarding other suspected killers like Robert Ireland, who had come through the area. Vegas is a transient town, so there was a lot of people that were suspected as they were repeat offenders. One of them being a killer named Stephen Peter Morin, who I want to cover on True Crime Guys. This guy killed a lot of people and covered a lot of ground in the U.S. and killed some people in Las Vegas, and they were suspected suspects, but there was nothing linking them to Kim Bryant's murder. And this case would go cold for 42 years until just being really recently solved in late 2021, just last year, with the help of a local philanthropist named Justin Wu, who donated money to help some old cold cases get solved with the help of DNA testing and the help of Othram Labs, which is a new lab company that is doing some cutting-edge advanced DNA analysis, genealogy, and things along those lines. So with Justin Wu's donation and with the help of Othram Labs, DNA taken from Kim's body would finally be connected to a killer. And it wasn't any of the suspects that they had earlier been looking at. It was someone out of the blue that's DNA was a perfect match, and that is Johnny Blake Peterson, who unfortunately had been dead for many years by the time that this discovery was made. He actually died in 1993. But incredibly, his DNA would match another cold case, another young woman that had been murdered many years ago in Las Vegas. His DNA would match a nearly 40-year-old unsolved murder, that of 22-year-old Diana Hansen, who back in 1983 had come home for the holidays. She was off at college. She grew up in Las Vegas, but she'd come home for the holidays back in 1983, and in late December, she had gone for a jog and never returned. And not long after that, her body had been found not far from where Kim's a few years before had been found. She had been found on West Desert Inn, out in the desert, on the outer edges of town at the time, which is also now incorporated. She was found not far from Kim's body. In that case, they had no suspects, and it went cold for, like I said, nearly 40 years before finally this being connected to Johnny Blake Peterson. And as of now, the police are still trying to connect Johnny's DNA to other unsolved murders. For sure, if he killed these two women 4 years apart and he wasn't caught and he died in 1993, how many more victims are there out there? I have a feeling we're going to see more cold cases solved when they link Johnny Blake Peterson's DNA to these unsolved cases. And as you see, the sketch that was done by Kim's friends way back in 1979 or around that time matches up very well with Johnny Peterson's mugshot from back near that time. He was a repeat offender. There's not a whole lot known about him, but like I said, I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more cold cases connected to Johnny Blake Peterson. And thankfully, from the help of this local Justin Wu and with Othram Labs, we got closure on 2 cold cases that had been haunting Las Vegas for a long time, and hopefully more are to come. That's my case for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time.